Let me paint you a picture. It's the end of the month. You open your banking app, you look at your checking account, and you feel that familiar little knot in your stomach. Not because you're broke. You're not broke. You have money in the bank. You're actually doing what everyone told you to do. You're saving. Every single month, you take a chunk of your paycheck and you move it into your savings account. You don't touch it. You're disciplined. You're responsible. You're doing the right thing. And yet, something feels off. Because month after month, year after year, the number doesn't seem to be growing the way it should. You're putting money in, but you're not actually getting ahead. And when you sit down and really think about it, like really do the math, you realize something that nobody ever told you. Saving money might actually be making you poorer. Now, before you close this video thinking I've lost my mind, stick with me, because what I'm about to show you is the one financial rule that changes everything. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here's the thing. We've been programmed since childhood to believe that saving money is the foundation of financial success. Your parents said it. Your teachers said it. Every personal finance article on the internet says it. Spend less than you earn, save the rest. And look, the intention is correct. Spending everything you make is clearly not the move. But here's where the whole story breaks down. The rule was never just save money. The rule was always save money and then do something smart with it. But somewhere along the way, half of that sentence got dropped. And millions of people are sitting on savings accounts thinking they're building wealth, when in reality, they're slowly losing ground. Let me give you a number that stopped me cold when I first saw it. The average high-yield savings account today pays somewhere between 4.5% and 5% interest annually. And people think, okay, that's actually pretty decent right now. And compared to what it was a few years ago, sure, it's better. But here's the problem. Inflation over the last 3 years has averaged around 5.8% annually in the United States, which means if your savings account is earning 5% and inflation is eating 5.8%, you are losing 0.8% of your purchasing power every single year. You're going backwards, slowly, quietly, in an account that feels completely safe. That's not building wealth. That's wealth erosion in slow motion. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Because this isn't just a math problem. This is a psychology problem. There's actually a name for what most people experience when they save money. Behavioral economists call it completion bias. The moment you move money from your checking to your savings account, your brain registers that as a completed action, task done. Box checked. You get a little dopamine hit. And that feeling, that sense of accomplishment, is so satisfying that most people stop there. The money goes into savings. The brain says, good job. And nothing else happens. But here's the brutal truth. Moving money from one account to another is not building wealth. It's just organizing it differently. Think about it this way. Imagine you have a bucket with a slow leak at the bottom. Every month, you pour water into the bucket. You're being disciplined. You're consistent. But nobody ever told you about the leak, so year after year, you pour water in, and you wonder why the bucket is never full. That leak is inflation. And savings accounts for long-term wealth building are buckets with leaks. Now I want to be clear about something, because I know some of you are already getting defensive. And that's completely fair. Saving money is not the enemy. Let me say that again. Saving money is not the enemy. Emergency funds are real. Short-term savings goals are real. Having cash available for life's unexpected moments is absolutely essential. The problem is when people treat their savings account as their primary wealth-building vehicle. That's where the mistake is. That's the rule most people don't know. Let's get into the real numbers. Because I want you to feel this, not just understand it intellectually. Meet two people, both are 30 years old, both have $500 a month they can put to work. Person A, let's call her Sarah, does what she was taught. She saves $500 every month in a high-yield savings account, earning 5% annually. She's disciplined. She never misses a month. For 30 years. Person B, let's call him Marcus, learns the rule. He puts that same $500 a month into a broad index fund that tracks the S&P 500. The historical average annual return of the S&P 500 over any 30-year period in its history has been approximately 10.5% before inflation. Same amount of money, same discipline, same 30 years, different rule. Here's what happens. At age 60, Sarah has approximately $416,000 in her savings account. That sounds pretty good actually, right? 30 years of discipline. $400,000. But Marcus? At age 60, Marcus has approximately $1,200,000. Same $500, same 30 years, nearly an $800,000 difference. And here's the part that makes this even more staggering. Both of them contributed the same total amount out of pocket. $500 times 12 months times 30 years. That's $180,000 of actual money they put in. Their own dollars. Sarah turned $180,000 into $416,000. Her money made her $236,000. Marcus turned $180,000 into $1,200,000. His money made him $1,020,000. The difference between those two outcomes is not income. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's one rule. One decision about where the money goes after you save it. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what about risk? The stock market goes up and down. Sarah's money is safe. Marcus could lose everything. And that's a fair point. Let's talk about that. Here's something that I genuinely believe most financial content gets completely wrong. When people talk about risk, they almost always talk about it in one direction. The risk of losing money, the risk of a market crash, the risk of a bad investment. But nobody talks about the other risk. The risk of playing it too safe. The risk of being so afraid of losing that you guarantee yourself a smaller future. That is a risk. It just doesn't feel like one. Because when you keep your money in a savings account and inflation slowly erodes its value, nothing dramatic happens. There's no crash. There's no headline. Your account balance doesn't go down. It just quietly buys less and less over time. Economists have a term for this. They call it the invisible tax. And it's one of the most effective taxes ever created because most people don't even know it's happening to them. Let me give you a concrete example of this invisible tax. In 2000, the median home price in the United States was $119,600. 25 years later, in 2025, the median home price is approximately $420,000. That's a 251% increase. Now imagine someone in 2000 who had $50,000 in savings and was being responsible, keeping it safe in a low-interest savings account. Over 25 years, at an average savings rate of 2%, that $50,000 grew to about $82,000. But the house they could have bought for $119,000 now costs $420,000. They were saving. They were being responsible, and they got priced out of the market anyway. That's the risk nobody warns you about. The risk of not moving fast enough. All right. So now you understand the problem. Let's talk about the solution. Because this video is not meant to scare you, it's meant to hand you a roadmap. The rule, the one this entire video is about, is called the Capital Allocation Framework. And it sounds fancy, but it's actually incredibly simple. The idea is this. Every dollar you earn should have a specific job, and that job should be determined by one question. When do I need this money? That single question divides your money into 3 buckets. And once you understand those 3 buckets, the confusion goes away completely. Bucket 1, the safety net, 0 to 2 years. This is your emergency fund. This is your short-term savings. This is the money you might need to access quickly if your car breaks down, if you lose your job, if life happens. This money absolutely belongs in a high-yield savings account or a money market account. Liquidity and safety are what matter here. The standard recommendation is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. If your monthly expenses are $4,000, your Bucket 1 target is somewhere between $12,000 and $24,000. Not more, not less, just enough. Here's the critical part that most people miss. Once bucket 1 is full, you stop. You do not keep pouring money into it. You do not let it grow to $50,000 because it feels safe. The job is done. Now you move to bucket 2. Bucket 2. The growth engine. 2 to 10 years. This is where money that you won't need for at least 2 years but might want access to within a decade belongs. House down payment. Business capital. A major life transition. For this bucket, you're looking at instruments that offer more growth than a savings account, but with manageable volatility. High-quality bond funds, treasury securities, a conservative balanced index fund. You're accepting some movement in value in exchange for meaningful returns that beat inflation over time. Bucket 3. The wealth builder. 10 years and beyond. This is where the real game gets played. Money you genuinely won't need for a decade or more. Retirement accounts, long-term index fund investments, real estate equity. This is the bucket that creates generational wealth. And the rule here is simple. Once money goes into bucket 3, you don't touch it. You don't watch it every day. You don't panic when the market drops. You let compound interest do the one thing it does better than any human on the planet. It makes time work for you instead of against you. Here's what most people don't realize until it's almost too late. The problem isn't that they don't have enough money to invest. The problem is they're unknowingly keeping money in bucket 1 that should be in bucket 3. I see this all the time. Someone has $80,000 sitting in a savings account. Their emergency fund should be $15,000. The remaining $65,000 is sitting there doing essentially nothing, losing value against inflation every single month. That $65,000, if invested in a diversified index fund for 20 years at a conservative 9% return, would become approximately $364,000. It's not earning that. It's sitting, feeling safe, quietly shrinking in real value. And here's the psychological twist. People keep too much in savings not because they don't know about investing. Most people know about the stock market. They know index funds exist. They've heard of Roth IRAs. They keep the money in savings because savings accounts feel certain. And the human brain, when given a choice between a certain smaller outcome and an uncertain larger outcome, almost always chooses certainty. This is called loss aversion. And Nobel Prize-winning economist Daniel Kahneman proved decades ago that losses feel psychologically twice as painful as equivalent gains feel good. So when you think about putting $10,000 into the market, your brain doesn't just think about gaining $10,000. It catastrophizes about losing $10,000. And that feeling is so overwhelming that most people simply don't act. But here's the reframe that changed everything for me. When you leave money in a savings account that's being eroded by inflation, you're already losing. It's just happening slowly enough that your brain doesn't register it as a loss, so you're not choosing between safety and risk. You're choosing between two different types of risk, visible risk and invisible risk. And once you see it that way, the decision becomes completely different. Now I know some of you are thinking, okay, but I'm not 30, I'm 45, I'm 52. Is it too late for me? Absolutely not. Here's the math on that. If you're 45 and you start putting $800 a month into a broad index fund, you have 20 years until traditional retirement age. At a 9% average annual return, that's approximately $560,000 at age 65. You contributed $192,000 out of pocket. The market added $368,000 to your net worth. Is starting at 45 better than starting at 25? No, but it is infinitely better than starting at 55, or 65, or never. The second objection I always hear is, what if the market crashes right when I need the money? This is where the bucket system protects you. If your money is properly allocated, if bucket 1 is funded, you should never be in a position where you're forced to sell investments at a loss to cover living expenses. The whole point of the safety net is that it absorbs life's shocks, so your long-term investments never need to be touched at the wrong moment. Market crashes are only devastating to people who are forced to sell during them. If you can hold, and a properly structured financial life ensures you can hold, crashes are actually buying opportunities, not disasters. All right, let's bring this home with something concrete and actionable. Here's exactly what I want you to do this week. Not someday. This week. Step 1. Open your banking app right now and look at your savings account balance. Ask yourself honestly, how many months of living expenses is that? If it's more than 6 months of expenses, you have money sitting in the wrong bucket. Step 2. Calculate your bucket 1 number. Take your monthly expenses, multiply by 5. That's a solid target. Anything above that number is available for buckets 2 and 3. Step 3. If you don't have a retirement account, a 401k, an IRA, a Roth IRA, open one this week. Not next month. This week. The cost of waiting another 30 days is real. It's measurable. And it comes out of your future. Step 4. Automate. This is the single most powerful financial move the average person can make. Set up an automatic transfer from your paycheck directly into your investment account before you ever see the money. Pay your future self first. The research on this is overwhelming. People who automate their investing accumulate nearly 3 times more wealth over their lifetime than people who invest manually. Step 5. Leave it alone. Seriously. The biggest returns in the history of wealth building have gone to people who invested consistently and then had the discipline to not touch it. Set it. Automate it. Live your life. Look, I'm not here to tell you that saving money is bad. It's not. It's essential. But saving money without a strategy isn't financial responsibility. It's financial procrastination dressed up as discipline. The rule is simple. Know when you need the money. Put it in the right bucket. Give it a job that matches its timeline. Your future self, the one who retires comfortably, who doesn't panic at unexpected expenses, who has real options and real freedom, that person is being built right now. With the decisions you make today. The math doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care how busy you are. It doesn't care that the timing never feels perfect. It just compounds. Quietly. Every single day. Whether you're paying attention or not. The only question is it compounding for you? Or against you? The rule hasn't changed. Most people just were never taught it. Now you know it. So what are you going to do with it?